A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Survival of No Limits. And so for today's part in Survival of No Limits, I really gotta say at this point that after all this time I've been putting through with the series, I really am looking forward to talking about what's gonna be coming up next. But for the time being, I gotta say that this is in fact something that I'm hoping to talk a little bit more about, be a little more in depth with. And I suppose that this is something that many people would actually want to hear about. So, right now I might as well just go in and talk a little bit about this when I can. So, this is episode number 24, Band Tours. Once again, I might as well go ahead and bring up the old question that seems to come up every now and then whenever I talk about new subjects every now and then. What does this have to do with survival? Well, what it does have to do with survival is that, well, if you're familiar with most rock and roll style band tours that many of you are familiar with, if you've learned a lot about history, then there have been a lot of occasions where band tours have ended in tragedy. Of course, there were the famous cases of Cliff Burton, the bassist of Metallica, in 1986, after the tour bus broke down somewhere in the south side of America itself. And then, of course, there were the other cases that began to develop as well, but that would take me a long time to talk about, so I guess I might as well just talk about what band tours have to do with survival overall, rather than just go talking for hours at a time on how certain band tours have in fact ended up in a tragic standpoint. But I will admit that I have seen a lot when it comes to tours and band-related issues, including breakups and separations and points. I've certainly grown up with a lot of music growing up, but the thing is, my selection is not very expansive as it used to be. And it's only because if there was in fact just a certain type of music that I would probably live with for the remainder of my life, depending on how long it's going to be, then I sure know what it's going to be. Alternative rock. And if you want me to be more specific, then well, I'll just go ahead and list out a few of my favorite bands that pretty much just play this genre all night long. All American Rejects, Bush, Crush 40, Plain White T's, and Anberlin. Those are just to name a few though, because there are a lot out there that I've come to know about over the years. And the thing is, because of all this new stuff that I've been doing relating to downloading music, I've really been able to get a lot of expansions here and there, as well as gain a lot of coverage and new grounds on how much music out there I could possibly get before my hard drives, I guess, end up getting cropped up with too much information and data. But not to get sidetracked, but that of course was just a little piece of trivia about me. I do download tons of music every day, and even though I don't work too much on it right now, I certainly am going to be having a lot of music in the many, many years to come, and that's for sure. But going back to band tours, of course there was that famous incident where Cliff Burton, the Metallica's bassist, had died after an accident occurred during a tour in 1986. Of course, there were the many other cases that resulted from a lot of things, including accidents and aggression towards each other, that have caused bands to either rift, break up, separate, or even die, as a matter of fact. There have been so many cases throughout history that a lot of these very underrated and extremely rare bands out there, whether it be the younger generations or the older generations, like where I come from, for example, Generation X, I will say for sure that there's been so much throughout history that it's getting a little hard to keep track of. But to be fair, a lot of things have happened in the music industry, and not every band is basically there to last forever. Maybe by a legacy standpoint, but in terms of how long a band lasts, from the day that they first originate to the day that, well, if the members die from natural causes or otherwise, there of course have been the many stories, untold or told, about bands having to separate or go their separate ways, no matter what the reason is. But in a way, the real thing about band tours relating to survival is the fact that sometimes, because of a lot of things out there, including drug addiction and substance usage, as well as, well, more personal aspects about, including marital status and otherwise, those can all lead to some pretty progressive, well, traits within the band themselves. There have been lots of cases where bands had ended up being separated because any of the members have had to go to prison, or any of the members had to go to a rehabilitation center, or a band member had passed away or something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised at any moments like those, because after all, it's very traumatic to see something like that happen anytime. It's pretty terrible to find out that someone truly is, or someone else, someone who's committing a crime, whether if it's to try and help the others or if it's for something different. It's also pretty devastating to find out that someone had passed away whenever there's like a ton of work that they had to do, and that they had to cancel it because of this one member who had passed away. And then of course there are the chances that some of the members, likewise, at least one member would probably be known for cheating on somebody, and as a result of a breakup or something like that, it would cause either a very depressive sort of time period that would follow, or it would cause some other sort of aftermath that would eventually lead to some pretty terrible things out there. So that's just to name several reasons out there why bands can pretty much be dissipated over time. But no matter how long they could last, or how long they might actually last, the thing is that they've done one thing together. They made good music for us to listen to. Of course, I'll never forget the times where Anberlin had really brought up a huge uplift on my lifetime, and it was such a shame that after 2014 they had to separate because of some things relating to their families, for the most part. It's a common thing that happens to most bands where they end up having to retire or go their separate ways because of the usage of more time to spend with their families. And it actually just so happens that by 2018 was when Anberlin had actually gotten back together for a little while. But once again, they're pretty much parting at this point, and they only got back together for some sort of farewell tour, similar to what's going on right now with singer Elton John, who's going to be retiring pretty soon. Elton John's farewell tour has been doing pretty awesome so far. And the thing is that, well, I can only imagine what might happen in the future. Maybe Elton John might get in an accident, or get some sort of disease, or maybe something else might happen. But you never really know for a fact. But whatever does happen, I sure hope that Elton John lives forever as a legacy, as a huge cultural icon throughout the world of music, fashion, and pop culture all over the place. Still is one of my favorite singers to this day, and even though, well, there have been many others before Elton John, I will say that Elton John really has done so much that I never really expected. But otherwise, I will say for sure that there have been a lot of things that happen to do with band tours having to retire or separate from each other because of some things that might have happened. Some people just don't really know it, but if you're ever planning on finding your own way through and making up your own band, then anything could happen out there. You might fall into drug addiction or sexual assault or some other type of issue out there that could end up throwing you away in the crime beat. Or even worse, you might actually have some sort of disease, or you might actually go into some uncharted territory which could actually lead to your imminent doom. So, of course, that's just a little warning message to anyone out there who could actually be trying to make their own band at some point, whether it be for rock and roll, which I'd personally follow all the time, or it could be for something else. No matter the case, hopefully everyone out there does what they can to ensure that they have a good, healthy, positive relationship with their fellow band members, and also to ensure that they can have themselves good publicity by making their reputation solid and happy in any way possible. But that's pretty much going to be it for right now. I'm certainly going to be having a lot more to talk about from here on out, but there really is so much that I can pretty much do throughout the coming weeks here and there. But tune in for sometime later on in the week. I will be having some more to talk about with episodes 25, 26, 27, and onwards. So that'll pretty much do for right now. But if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Then make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.